So, we all remember William Hung, right? You may be familiar with this iconic performance, but there are just so many insane details when you look into this story that I just need to tell someone. And also, his audition aired on this date, which is exactly 20 years ago now, and well, anyway, as a prelude to my main story, I just want to give you a quick little lesson on ancient history. In the 2000s, a 20-year-old immigrant from Hong Kong and civil engineering student from UC Berkeley named William Hung auditioned for the third season of American Idol. And it went about as well as
Talk to me, tell me your name. You blow me off like it's all the same. You let it fuse and
so when Simon Cowell, who played the mean bully character on the show, insulted William to his face and possibly humiliating him in front of millions, William responded with this.
I already gave my best, and I have no regrets at all.
Good for you.
That's good. Now that's
excellent,
good. That's
William.
good.
That's the best attitude yet.
Now, that best attitude stood in stark contrast to most rejected Idol auditionees at this stage of the contest, who would usually storm off in indignation. And the second that that episode aired on January 2004, William Hung's email blew up. A fan started a fan site called williamhung.net, which only grew his popularity to the point that the website crashed because there were way too many fans visiting it. That fan base had come about as a mix of ironic mockery, morbid curiosity to see how far this could be milked, and a genuine and sincere appreciation for a guy that people saw as a real inspiration to follow their own dreams and be themselves regardless of the criticism. Well, anyway, a record label, Cost Records, caught wind of all this and wanted to capitalize on this fan base as fast as possible, specifically before the third Idol season ended in May later that year and an actual winner was crowned. Hung was offered $25,000 on the spot and, in the span of a weekend, was recorded singing over karaoke tracks of very popular songs like I Believe I Can Fly and Hotel California. The result was the 2004 album Inspiration, and that one... that sold 250,000 copies. And this isn't like 250,000 Spotify streams or YouTube views. This is like 250,000 people paid money to listen to that. And that was just the beginning. Hung was so encouraged by this that he dropped out of engineering in Berkeley to pursue music full-time. And what followed was a whirlwind of commercials, endorsements, talk show appearances, mall tours, performances at major sports events, parodies, so many parodies, some of which were honestly kind of low-key racist.
He should market his teeth. It slices, it dices. It's the William Hung teeth. That's why Susan. Ding dong 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 ding ding.
An acting career, more cover albums, a Christmas holiday EP. It's called Hung for the Holidays. What is this cover art? Girl, Mariah could never. This was a level of media frenzy and pop culture saturation that arguably overshadowed the actual winner that season, Fantasia Barrino, and definitely overshadowed some of the finalists. Hung would retire from music 4 years later and resumed college to try and become a teacher, even finished an MBA, and now works as a motivational speaker. He seems surprisingly grateful and not at all resentful for his brief experience in showbiz, which really just reflects the good-naturedness that he showed in that initial audition all those years ago.
I don't have the raw talent, therefore I shouldn't audition. I shouldn't try. Why bother? Why make a fool of myself? But that's not how life works. You know, because if you never start, you never go for it at the beginning, then how will you get to the next step?
So that's it, right? Nice little feel-good story about a guy milking his 15 minutes of fame and, as the kids say, got his bag and dipped. This is a good thing, right? Right? Well, William Hung was just one of dozens and dozens and dozens of bad singers auditioning for American Idol who were set up to be ridiculed by design. And I think it kind of speaks to the unique cruelty and mean-spiritedness that was allowed to fester in mainstream media back in the 2000s, which, honestly, that's going to be a recurring theme in this video, so I don't know, take a shot for every time I have to allude to the callous unwokeness of the 2000s. And it was bad auditions like these, like William Hung's and so many others, that would become the basis for one of the most bizarre pop culture moments of 2007. Because, mild spoilers, William Hung would not be the last person of Asian descent on American Idol to become an international superstar on the back of not so great singing and internet shenanigans. By the way, hi, I'm Fredster.
My heart grew tipsy.
Televised talent shows in the US and the UK, where a bevy of performers would perform on TV for an audience at home who could vote for them to win, this has been a thing for a really long time, with hugely popular shows like the original Amateur Hour in the 50s and Star Search in the 80s. Following that tradition, American Idol, which was an offshoot derived directly from UK's Pop Idol, debuted in the year 2002. And in addition to being a competition, it also promised like a much more warm and intimate experience where you could really get to know the contestants and know their stories and where they're from. You got to see their progression week to week and see their struggles and their victories, blah blah blah. It's all so wholesome. Ultimately, I think what Idol intended to be was like a simulacrum of showbiz and to showcase what it takes to make it in the music industry. And it was super successful because it was very easy to immerse yourself. And I mean, you're the viewer. It was easy to immerse yourself in the experience. Like, you got what it takes to be a star. But ultimately, American Idol isn't just a singing competition. It is a reality show for TV that needed views. So, I don't know, to make things a little more fun, I guess, they included this. So from the start, there was always a weird disconnect between the ugly mockery of moments like these
No escape from reality.
And the wholesomeness and pageantry of a moment like this. And there were a number of people who noticed. And then they would get on the internet and they would form Vote for the Worst started out as a movement on the Survivor Sucks message board by the user The Funny Stone, who IRL was 21-year-old Dave Della Terza. It would then branch out into its own website. Before we proceed, just need to give a bit of background as to how the American Idol voting system works. The start of the live broadcast would begin with 24 contestants performing every week. The judges, Simon, Paula, and Randy, would give their comments, but most of the time this would have no direct impact on the results. Then after each performance, they would flash the phone number corresponding to each contestant, where TV viewers watching live at home could either call or text to vote for said contestant, and the contestants with the least amount of TV votes would get eliminated the next day. Now, how Vote for the Worst works was that in the start of these live broadcasts, Dave, possibly with inputs from other members, would personally pick one contestant who he felt was the worst of that season, the one least deserving to be on the show. And once that was chosen, he would endorse said contestant and encourage people to call in or text to vote for him or her via a banner on the top of the Vote for the Worst website. And if that contestant was eliminated, then they'd move on to pick one of the other remaining contestants who they felt was the worst of that season. And then repeat that process until the very finals, when the worst pick would either end up as a runner-up, or in some cases, the winner, which actually has happened.
Taylor Hicks!
Now, it doesn't take a sociologist to understand the appeal of trolling a huge TV show like American Idol, but take a look at what Vote for the Worst gives as their justification, directly taken from their website, and I believe was actually written by Dave himself. During the televised auditions, the producers of Idol only let certain people through. Many good people are turned away, and many bad singers are kept around to see Simon, Paula, and Randy so that America will be entertained. American Idol is not about singing at all. It's about making good reality TV and enjoying the cheesy, guilty pleasure of watching bad singing. We want to acknowledge this fact by encouraging people to make an even funnier show by helping amusing antagonists stick around. Vote for the Worst sees keeping these contestants around as a golden opportunity to make for a funnier show. In other words, in their minds, they're giving Idol a taste of their own medicine, like, oh, you like showing off bad singers for fun? Well, we're gonna vote bad singers for fun. I'll see how you like it. Ultimately, their goal was just to make a mockery of the show, right? Just to expose it for the reality show schlop that it was, generate buzz, get people talking about how awful the show is and always has been. And I always found this framing actually kind of brilliant, especially in 2007. Like, it turned what would make a simple act of trolling a reality show into an act of justice, defiantly standing up to the powers that be. So the website started in 2004, the season 3 of American Idol, incidentally, the season of William Hung, but they wouldn't make national headlines until 2007, when one kid would change everything. 17-year-old Sanjaya Malakar, who is of Indian descent, auditioned in Seattle with his older sister, Shaya Mali. When he reached the top 12, Sanjaya would become the vote for the worst pick. A few weeks after that, he would become an internationally known celebrity, and by some metric, the single most popular contestant that season. And I have the metrics, so take a look. On Google Trends, I plotted Sanjaya against the top 4 finalists that season. In the month that this season of American Idol was airing, Sanjaya was around 10 times more popular and more talked about on the internet than any of the other contestants during that time period. So on March 8, when the top 12 was announced, the Vote for the Worst website picked Sanjaya Malakar as their pick, which raises the question, was Sanjaya actually that bad? Was he, as the name suggests, the worst ever? No. I don't even think he had the worst performances that season, but let's back up. When a contestant gains notoriety for being the worst, it's usually that they start off the contest really strong with like one great spectacular performance in the beginning, and then just like falter or maybe not do as well as the competition progresses, which would then lead them to becoming eliminated. Sanjaya's run on the competition suffered a bit because he did have decent and even good performances. Like, I really like this performance of him singing Besame Mucho.
Bésame, bésame mucho.
But those good performances came a little bit later in the contest. Just maybe talk about starting off on the wrong foot. Also, just trying to be objective, Sanjaya just wasn't that bad. Even Vote for the Worst founder Dave conceded in an interview with Entertainment Weekly that Sanjaya may not be the worst vocalist that season, just that he was the most entertaining, he had the biggest impact. So no, I don't think Sanjaya was the worst ever contestant. But that's not how American Idol saw it. And by American Idol, I mean the judges. And by the judges, I mean Simon Cowell.
Absolutely nothing that came from that for me. For me, that's what I call a waste of time performance, because there was nothing I could take from that other than it was dull.
Look, Simon Cowell, he's a character, right? And I mean, like a sitcom character. It's a persona that he has to play for the camera, for the views. He's this mean, grumpy bully who puts talentless people in their place. But like, even knowing that, Simon seemed uncharacteristically brutal to this young man.
Utterly horrendous. I'm being serious. It was as bad as anything we see at the beginning of American Idol. You know, where all the...
Simon would later tell a news source that he would not come back to judge the show if Sanjaya won, which, in hindsight, he was probably just saying kind of jokingly, but if there was already a movement to troll you and the show that you're a part of, maybe just don't say that. Like, don't give ammo to the trolls, dude. What are you doing? So now it just became a matter of trolling the mean, terrible Simon Cowell, which obviously was super gratifying for the trolls on Vote for the Worst. So on March 13, the Vote for the Worst website and their Sanjaya pick would get on the radar of one Howard Stern, an edgy 90s to 2000s era radio host who was super popular. He had over 8 million followers at the time. Like, there was this one gag where Stern had this guy in his posse, Eric the actor, rest in peace, who really liked American Idol, and Stern was making fun of him. It was a whole thing.
There is a web page, there's a page on the internet that is very popular. It's called votefortheworst.com.
Right, that's been going on for a couple of years.
And it's really growing in popularity. And what it is they've harnessed all of their energy to ruin certain things. Like, they're encouraging millions of people to vote for Sanjaya, because how great would it be this season on American Idol? Because there's nobody really that good.
This mention really boosted the clout of the Vote for the Worst website. Site traffic data this old is hard to get, but according to them, that website was getting 1 million hits a day, with 2 to 3 million hits on nights that American Idol would be airing. So, it was starting to become a really big deal. So, yeah, week after week, Dave, through the Vote for the Worst website, and Howard, through his radio show, they would fight to keep Sanjaya on, get people to call in and text to vote Sanjaya, and save him from getting the least amount of votes and getting eliminated. March 24, though, that was when Sanjaya truly became a household name through one iconic performance. It was British Invasion Week, and Sanjaya had chosen the song You Really Got Me Now by the Kinks, which is already a super difficult song to perform, and I'd honestly go as far as to say there's hardly ever been a good performance of it on Idol. But anyway, Sanjaya would sing, and the camera would constantly cut to this girl who was inexplicably crying. It was such a bizarre TV spectacle. It was so strange that host Ryan Seacrest had to clarify that, this girl was actually a fan.
I actually think she liked him.
Really?
Yeah. That was good, right? You enjoyed that. You're a fan.
Yeah.
That weird juxtaposition of a crying girl and Sanjaya's performance, that really stuck to people. That crying girl was 13-year-old Ashley Furl, and that whole performance, this whole moment, became so talked about and remembered that she would later get a page on Know Your Meme, truly a marker of cultural impact. But if we're speaking about cultural impact, speaking about being remembered, March 31, 2007, that was the real turning point. Sanjaya started out his performance of No Doubt's Bathwater looking like this.
And your museum of lovers, a precious collection. You house me a few, but I just keep trying.
And that was it. Nothing else mattered. That faux pony hawk, or phony hawk as it came to be known, became a cultural phenomenon in 2007.
The pony hawk, I heard, I didn't see it personally, but I did hear that at one point it was in college textbooks as a study on I don't know, the power of social phenomena or something.
Wow.
I wasn't in the class, but
Now, before, I just thought, oh, that was pretty ballsy of him, to intentionally have such a crazy hairstyle. But apparently, there was way more to the story. According to Sanjaya, when his mom, who was his legal guardian at the time, had seen that hairstyle before the performance, she vehemently protested. She was like, absolutely not. I'm not gonna let my kid look that ridiculous. I'm not gonna let him be made a mockery of. But Idol executive producer Nigel Linthau, who, by the way, at the time of me scripting this, is currently facing sexual assault allegations, tried to convince Sanjaya's mom, no, this is gonna be a media moment, he's gonna be the most talked about person ever, blah blah blah. And it's really disheartening to realize how much of the media narrative was manufactured, how much the public and everyone else was just being duped, being taken along for the ride. It's kind of gross, honestly. But if we want to talk about gross... Okay, there was one thing that I really need to bring up. Look, Sanjaya wasn't the most masculine boy ever.
Surprised to know that I can actually hula.
Which is fine, there are worse crimes out there. And Simon would throw out this weird one-off comment at one point.
I'm just finding the whole hula hooping, the Paula hairstyle all a bit weird.
But looking into the Sanjaya discourse, if you can call it that, in 2007, people were just so homophobic. Just poking fun about how Sanjaya was gay and how he looked like a super hot girl.
Patrice says he's so feminine that if you walked around with him, you would not be considered gay. Sanjaya has a homo hawk.
Oh, homo hawk.
That Sanjaya guy in American Idol, though, I'm fixated on him winning, and he looks like a pre-op. I think he should come out.
He seems gay.
Yeah, he came out. He's a pretty girl. If you put him in a dress and gave him a little bit of a nose job,
Yeah.
he'd be the hottest chick ever.
And I didn't think he was that. He didn't seem that gay in the audition.
No. But you give him some tits and cut off his dick,
He's gorgeous.
he might be a really hot girl.
And it would be one thing if it was just a few edgy radio hosts, but this definitely trickled down to a lot of the internet discussions at the time. The 2000s, everybody! Yay! In 2022, Sanjaya would eventually come out as bisexual on the Adam Stank podcast. But you want to know what the messed up part about all this is? It wasn't the homophobia. I mean, it was, but it was actually coming from inside the house. So at the time of filming the show, Sanjaya actually did have a long-term girlfriend at the time, but was specifically asked not to reveal that and act as if he was single. But also, he just simply wasn't allowed to be public about his own bisexuality or, any other feelings that a 17-year-old might naturally have when discovering parts of themselves.
American Idol happens, and I was like, oh, he's gay. And I'm like, okay, well, now I have to say no, because at this point, they're forcing me to make a decision. It's like, all my publicists, all of it, they're like, oh, just like, tell everyone you're single, be ambiguous, no one needs to know anything about anything because you don't want to lose your fans. And I'm like, okay, but why am I manipulating what I know of myself to figure out what kind of fans I'm going to get? Because I'm still trying to discover who I am.
Right.
And it's a shame that Idol and the tight leash that they had over their contestants couldn't just let him be. Because it was the 2000s. So at this point, if you were watching American Idol or were aware of Idol or pop culture or alive at that point, you likely fell into one of two camps. Either you were A, rooting for Sanjaya. So we already talked at length about Vote for the Worst's goals and involvement and the boost that it got from Howard Stern, but we might be forgetting the most important person in all this, which is Sanjaya Malakar himself. Because beyond all the media manipulation, the weird homophobia, the hair, he was just a nice kid.
I gotta give you an opportunity to respond to Simon. You can't just take that.
Well, I appreciate his honesty.
You do? Why argue with him? Tell him he's wrong. Tell him you can do better.
I know that I can do better. I know that I can definitely put my personality out there, and I just hope that America can see that.
A nice, unflappable, likable, sweet kid just trying his best. And it's not like he was a terrible performer. He certainly had stage presence. He knew how to work a camera. He seemed to genuinely enjoy himself in every performance. And it just made him a lot easier to root for. People like an underdog. Also, just being the youngest and what a lot of folks perceived to be the cutest guy in the contest at that point made him very popular with teen girls, like crying girl Ashley Furl. But he really did cultivate a sincere fan base who deemed themselves Fanjayas.
Simon says deplorable. America says adorable.
In a season with a lot of boringly good or just boringly okay contestants, Sanjaya really stood out and really endeared himself to the public. And if you weren't rooting for Sanjaya, it's likely that fell into camp B. Really, really hating Sanjaya. Like, the whole thing with Howard Stern started because he was trolling Eric the actor, who felt that Sanjaya's continued involvement would tarnish the reputation of the show. To this day, I'm honestly kind of unclear whether this whole thing was just like a bit, but the sentiment of ruining American Idol was really common among die-hard fans of the show. Like, maybe they just bought into Simon Cowell's whole shtick of like, OMG, Sanjaya is literally the best singer of all time, da-da-da. That's my Simon Cowell impression. Specifically, Howard Stern and especially Dave from Vote for the Worst would get so much hate mail and even death threats for encouraging people to vote for Sanjaya. Dave in particular would publish the worst of these letters to the front page of his website for people to laugh at, and that only fueled the trolls more. Guys, what are we doing? Don't feed the trolls!
Having people vote for Sanjaya is preposterous. There are some people much more talented than Sanjaya that are being voted off. Your logic for keeping him is stupid. You believe that American Idol is ruining the music industry when you were just letting more William Hungs run the show. Why don't you losers just stop right now? You're messing up the show big time. You think it's funny and entertaining to keep Sin Homo on the show, but it's not. You don't like the show, then stop freaking watching it. I don't think 50 million want to see the worst singer. We want the best singer. It's not cool to keep Sanjaya on. He sucks and it's not even entertaining. Why do you have to be so mean? I hate you so much. I curse you and all your loved ones at first.
Okay, sorry, I'll stop. These were real letters sent to Vote for the Worst and were published onto the front page of the website on April 12. It's very surreal revisiting people defending American Idol with their life. This is the kind of devotion I'd expect nowadays from, like, pop stars or sports teams. But to fight tooth and nail for poor little nameless faceless television show run by poor little nameless faceless Fox Corporation? You know, I think what these people were really angry about wasn't even about any individual contestant, but it seemed like they were fighting for what American Idol represented to them, that showbiz was a meritocracy, and you'd make it if you had enough talent. And seeing that dream being shattered through a concerted trolling effort, I don't know, it probably messed with a lot of people. It broke the illusion, the immersion. But the one piece of backlash that got the most attention was the one 23-year-old woman on MySpace who went by Jay, who went on a hunger strike, vowing not to eat for several days until Sanjaya was voted off. Nowadays, if something like this were to happen, she would, I don't know, get appointed clown of Twitter or TikTok for like 5 minutes before fizzling out. This made national news. But man oh man, this was just the tip of the iceberg when it came to Sanjaya's coverage in the media. He was parodied on Saturday Night Live, The Daily Show,
Finally got it right and voted. If I may just stop you right there.
This terrible parody movie, Meet the Spartans.
I'm not gay.
This moment on a news broadcast.
Proposal.
Vote Sanjaya. Is this about Sanjaya?
No, it isn't.
Vote Sanjaya. Show America that we can vote Sanjaya.
And again on Saturday Night Live 8 years later.
You know who Donald Trump reminds me of? Sanjaya from American Idol. Remember Sanjaya? He had weird hair and he sang like garbage. Yeah.
Right. Every late night host and comedian had a Sanjaya joke in their act, including me, which I apologize to you for because, again, you were a child and I should have fucking known better. But, you know, I was a moron in 2006.
But like with William Hung, there were arguably some upsides. Sanjaya was named the best TV reality star at the Teen Choice Awards. He got to meet then-President Bush in a White House Correspondents' Dinner as a guest of People magazine. He was featured on a nationwide insurance commercial. Jennifer Lopez said that she wanted to adopt him. He was voted 3rd in an online poll of Time Person of the Year 2007, above Barack Obama and Beyonce. There's a reason why he overtook all his fellow contestants in terms of popularity. This is a level of pop culture saturation that I can't even fathom nowadays. But on April 18, only a little after a month that he was named the vote for the worst pick,
Sanjaya, you are going home tonight. Lakeisha is safe.
Now, unlike William Hung, Sanjaya couldn't capitalize immediately on his fame because he finished in the top 10. So he was contractually obligated to go on a nationwide tour with all the other Idol contestants after the show was over. So that involved a lot of traveling, a lot of being on the road for several months at a time. Around a year later, he participated in a Survivor-ish Big Brother type show for washed-up celebrities. Probably after being disillusioned with the showbiz industry, he didn't really try for a mainstream music career afterward. He did release a couple of EPs in 2009 and 2011, but he really grew into his own as a vocalist in 2017 in a jazz album called Good Merlin, and he sounds amazing. Like, that was the singer who deserved to have finished on Idol. Nowadays, Sanjaya has a comfortable and fulfilling job in the culinary arts, while only occasionally dabbling in music. He honestly seems perfectly content with his life right now and how everything turned out, which is great. Honestly, that's the best outcome we could have hoped for. As for the Vote for the Worst website, the site would go offline in 2013, citing declining relevance of Idol as an institution, and possibly declining relevance of TV as a whole. Dave, who became a mini-celebrity in his own right, now has a surprisingly quiet and out-of-the-spotlight job in library administration, which, you know what, good for him too. Now, I titled this video, How a Website Ruined Idol, but did it? Reportedly, there was a 9% drop in viewership when Sanjaya left, and I couldn't find any sources to back that up, but honestly, it makes too much sense. Because it's really telling that the most popular and talked about contestant that season is ostensibly its worst. There was one article at the time from a regional newspaper I found where one Idol fan speculated, American Idol appears to be losing some of its luster. I think the Vote for the Worst site is a reflection in the shift away from the audience cooperating with the show and instead registering their boredom. With another fan adding, I think it's funny actually. I kind of understand where the site's coming from about how the show has turned into a kind of a joke. As for the impact of Sanjaya on Idol as a whole, the remaining contestants kinda became more boring, if that makes sense. And I don't think this was a contestant's fault for the record, because I feel that the producers off camera were putting way more pressure onto them just to behave and to keep in line. And the recent reboot a few years ago completely done away with the bad auditions. So, yay, progress! And as much as the powers that be, the producers, would try and minimize the impact of the show, the website was popular enough to get on their radar. Specifically, executive producer and person currently facing assault allegations, Nigel Linthau, compared the website to a fly buzzing around a cow, which, are you sure that's the image you want associated with your brand? I mean, flies are usually attracted to, you know what, never mind. So why even talk about this? Why even bring this up? Why recall this ephemeral piece of tabloid drama from 2007? I think it's a really good example of the tension that can occur when old legacy media, like television talent shows, run up against the interests of the internet, and how righteous framing can turn a little trolling campaign into a full-fledged movement. So, in conclusion, we stand Jaya in this household. W's for William Hung, executive producer Nigel Linthau, fell off, plus L, plus ratio. And if you're still here and tuned in, thank you so much. If you, like me, are really interested in that kind of weird intersection between internet and pop culture, especially in like the 2000s and the early 2010s. So if that also interests you, by all means, like I'm gonna make more videos, hopefully once every 2 weeks, and I'll see you next time. Take care.